Well, an old man went to the doctor complaining about a terrible pain in his leg. And the doctor said, I'm just afraid it's old age. There's nothing we can do about it. And the older gentleman was incensed. He said, that can't be right. He said, you don't know what you're talking about. And the doctor got kind of defensive and says, well, how can you possibly know that I'm wrong? He said, well, it's obvious, isn't it? He said, my other leg is fine and it's the exact same age. Okay. Today I want to share with you about the powerhouse of healing within you. The powerhouse of healing within you. And give us some ways we can feel it more deeply. Feel it more deeply. Call to mind the majesty and the power that Spirit is, so that we build our faith in its ability to heal us and to heal through us. In Unity, we stress the need for a clear understanding of spiritual law for successful healing. But in addition to this, there has to be something else. Besides knowing spiritual law, it's not only what we know that's important, it's what we feel. It's what we feel that creates and manifests what's going on in our life. What we feel works its way down into our consciousness and then lives out as we express it. And so today I want to work with the ideas of Dr. Bale's book, Your Mind Can Heal You, to share with you some of the, because you don't have your books yet, share with you some of the ways that he helps us remember the power and the majesty of Spirit, so that we can equate that to understanding spiritual law and building our faith. He says in his work, there is an inner knowledge, a knowledge that is not the result of intellectual processes. It is something mystical, and it's gained directly from the source of all knowledge. The scientist and the philosopher arrive at truth through intellect and reason. The spiritual student uses both of these, but in addition, arrives at the conviction of truth through a third method. And that method is that of immediate perception. Immediate perception. This is an intuitive knowing, not achieved through the physical senses or the intellect, but by direct revelation from Spirit. I like to say it's cultivated. It's a cultivated listening. It's a cultivated opening and allowing the revelation of Spirit. It brings truth that is sensed rather than reasoned. Did you get that? It brings truth that's sensed. You know when you get up and you know that you know. You don't know how you know, but you know that you know. It is truth that is sensed rather than reasoned, although it never violates reason. Won't say jump off a cliff, because that's not true. You may use reason and logic in thinking about what you have sensed, but you first apprehend it in flashes of intuitive insight. To the degree that we open ourselves to this all-powerful presence and get the feeling of it, is the degree that we receive its power. Isn't that powerful? I mean, I love this book because he just makes things so wonderful. There is an inner knowledge, a knowledge that's not the result of intellectual processes. It is something mystical and gained directly from the source of all knowledge. It is an intuitive knowing, not achieved through the physical senses or the intellect, but by direct revelation from Spirit. So then, he gives us some steps to consciously cultivate this feeling, this feeling of this divine presence. And most of us who have been in Unity a long time, we know these steps, we know this process. But just briefly, he said, in his words, you withdraw from the haranguing voices of the world. He said, from the false notions of illness and the sheep-like following of commonly accepted ideas. The sheep-like following, the herd consciousness. You step out of that herd consciousness that it's flu season, that I have that I catch one cold every winter, that some cancers are incurable. You have to step out of that. He said the average experience of the race has been to live under the delusion that we were born to sickness, to sorrow, and to limitation. He said, and it's all a lie. It's all a lie. It's a false standard of what's normal. It's a false standard of what's true in spirit. But it's been accepted by our collective consciousness that we're born, the body only lives so long, which is living longer and longer all the time now, that the body ages as we get older, that we lose flexibility as we get older, that we lose muscle mass as we get older. All of that is a lie. It's not true. Your cells replace themselves. Every 7 years you have an entire new body. Did you know that? Every 7 years, every cell in your body has replaced itself, and it's following a pattern of original perfection. So he says we must learn to look at life through the eyes of spirit and see a far, far higher standard of spiritual and physical perfection that we were born for. Okay, so that's good. Number one, withdraw from the haranguing voices. Number two, then you go into the deepest part of yourself. And you see beyond those commonly accepted interpretations. You connect with the infinite, and at that point of union then, you become aware of what he calls an indefinable something. And you feel its presence. You feel its presence. And it's different for each of us. For some, it's an absolute stillness. For some, it's a peace that passes all human understanding. Sometimes you feel like a perfume around your heart, a fragrance of sweetness in your heart. It's different for each of us. But once we're in that place, then in that stillness, we intuitively feel spiritual truth as an intuition, as a hunch, as an inkling, as a thought that floats in. Its effect is felt rather than reasoned. It's not that your whole answer to your prayer drops in, although it may, but you get an inkling, an intuition of a direction or a way to go. And then he says you come forth and live what you know for sure, what you've experienced in that moment, because you have the authority of direct revelation. I know this is true for me. I know in that moment I touched health and life and I'm whole, even though my body is still catching up to that idea of wellness. I got still. I touched life. I know. I felt it. I am it. And then you come forth from your prayer time and you live that. You live that wholeness in that life. There is a great indwelling power and intelligence that heals by recognition of its presence. That's his main line in this chapter on the healing power within you. There is a great indwelling power and intelligence that heals by recognition of its presence. So, in healing our bodies, we want to feel the presence, grasp or take hold of the idea of the immensity of its power, and then allow that power to flow in and through us and out into our world. It has the ability to create anything, and it's willing to create a healthy body as well as create a sick body, because it follows the dominant feeling, the dominant thought and feeling in our consciousness. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm working to heal something, I have doubts. Anybody? Oh, good. So then you're going to like this part. I have doubts. One reason we have doubts is when all of a sudden an illness shows up. You've been healthy all your life, and you've never had to apply the spiritual principles of healing to an illness. So it's your first time. Or maybe you've applied it to the flu or a headache, but never to cancer treatment or something big, something larger, you know. And so we're just not experienced or practiced at that. And so we're navigating new thought patterns. We're navigating what in my consciousness brought this to me and what in my consciousness needs to be realigned, you see. The other thing is, some people have lived with chronic illness and they haven't been able to heal it, and so they have doubts that they can kind of master this thing. You know, I really think in life there are 3 areas that our souls come in to master one of those areas. It's either health and healing, wealth and prosperity, or love and relationships. You're usually really good at two of them, and it's the third one that's been that long-term chronic, I never seem to get this worked out. If you're good at health and relationships, it's your career and your prosperity that seems to be your learning curve this lifetime. Are you with me? So sometimes when an illness comes, we just have never had one that we've had to practice on. I've shared with you that I had pneumonia and almost died from that. I've had open heart surgery, and that was a big deal way back then. It's been almost 30 years ago now, so it's still a big deal. Now the surgery, they don't even stop the heart. But back then, it's a big thing when they took your heart out of your body and worked on it. So I'd never healed. I never had anything really more than a mosquito bite prior to that. So I had to really work with Myrtle Fillmore's ideas of healing life in that experience to be able to train my thought patterns and my consciousness to turn toward wholeness and life. So we find ourselves saying things like this. I feel I can access divine mind, and I believe in its ability to heal, and I see people who seem to have plenty of faith in it. But it seems as if I'm unable to have strong enough faith to get well, no matter how hard I try. Or I'm afraid. I'm afraid I can't survive this. I'm afraid I can't meet this. So today, Mr. Bales gives us 4 ideas, just reminders. They're just beautiful reminders of the power and the majesty of infinite intelligence, so that we can turn to these when you want to train your faith to remember that all things are possible with God. These are just good things to think about, and it's an easy lesson today. You don't have to really think a lot. But his first suggestion is to remember that infinite intelligence created your body. He said, in your very first infinitesimal cell, there was a plan. There was a divine blueprint in your DNA, which was so thin it could only be seen under powerful magnification, yet stretched out it would be more than 5 or 6 feet long. And resident in that first infinitesimal cell was all of the mind of God. Right? All of the mind of God. It had knowledge of the structures that would be needed later, such as teeth and bones and ears, and laid them down months in advance. At definite milestones along the way, certain formations in your body began to take shape, always on schedule, as laid down, he said, by an invisible architect. Hinges and joints were all built in the right places. Muscles were attached to the bony framework at exactly the right spots so they could move your body on earth rapidly and smoothly. Some cells formed tiny clusters that made endocrine glands. Some were built into a powerful pump that we know is the heart, and more. He goes on and on in the chapter, beautifully describing the infinite intelligence that created our bodies. Quotes the psalmist who said, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And so when you're facing that illness and you're doubting about Spirit's ability to heal, you have to remember this infinite pattern of perfection that's living in you, that created you. It created the biggest part of you and the smallest part of you with ease and perfection. And the degree to which you feel that, its presence is released in and through you. You have that healing power infused in you. Another way to dissolve doubts when others are reporting, I think I skipped ahead here. Where did I go? I turned 2 pages at once, maybe. No, maybe not. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. We can never hear that too often. It's unreasonable to suppose then that divine mind loses all interest in us once we're made. It's like, you're done now, run along, you're done, boop, Pillsbury Doughboy, boop, little hole in the middle. Infinite intelligence built the body with the intention of having it always function perfectly. It always contemplates the body as being in a perfect state of healing and wholeness, and it works tirelessly to obliterate anything that would challenge the health of your body or the health of even the tiniest cell, right? Cut your finger, and what happens? Instantly, everything in your body goes to work to repair that. So infinite intelligence is still very much alive and at work in your body, but is following a pattern. The intelligence at work in the body is the same mind that knows how to heal the perfect structure that it built. It knew how to build those cells out of nothing, and it knows how to build cells when something has happened to make the old ones sick. We don't have to plead with our body or plead with God to heal us, but we can interfere with the healing process. There we go, bingo. And we interfere first in consciousness, in our thoughts. And so our part in healing is to understand that divine substance, this divine mind, which is highly intelligent, the substance of God, and able to build the structure perfectly, is non-reasoning intelligence. It is unable to move until it is moved upon by thought and given a pattern to follow. It must always follow a pattern, and it will follow a disease pattern as easily and quickly as it will follow a pattern of health. Where does it get the pattern? From our dominant thinking and feeling consciousness. So what's showing up in your life is a reflection of your consciousness. And this is, I always love it when they say unity is Pollyanna. There is nothing Pollyanna about being accountable to what you're thinking and feeling as the dominance in your consciousness. We have to ensure that our thought pattern is one of health, love, peace, and happiness. And when this is done, divine mind will follow that pattern. And then the resultant health of your body isn't a miracle, it's the working of spiritual law, which you have trained your mind and your faith to know over and over, that thy will be done. Thy will be done. He gives the example in the book of this man that says, well, I wasn't thinking of getting arthritis, but I have this terrible expression of arthritis. And when he worked backwards with the man, he got to the place where he said this man and his wife every Sunday after church would walk 1 mile to his wife's sister's house for Sunday dinner. Remember when we used to do that? You go somewhere for chicken, fried chicken. No, we don't fry the chicken anymore. We don't eat the chicken anymore. It's tofu. But anyway, walked a mile to the sister-in-law's house, and he didn't like the sister-in-law. He didn't like going there. He didn't like being there. 10 years, for a decade, every Sunday, that was their routine. And then, over that time, he got sicker and sicker and developed arthritis until he was unable to make the walk. Now, that association, is it that simple? You get that it's a cultivation in consciousness. There's not just if this, then that. But if you get back behind and take a look at what your dominant thought and feeling is about something, if you're holding resentment or animosity or grippingness or something, it's going to show up somewhere in your life, in your relationships, in your finances, or in your body. And so we want to ensure that our thoughts are love, health, peace, and happiness. And ask Spirit, reveal that which needs to be revealed and heal that which needs to be healed. And if I don't need to know, God, what it is for the great ongoing, then just flush it out of me and let me be whole, right? We don't have to, sometimes in Unity they teach us get a microscope and put your life under there and look. And if you need to know, ask to have it be revealed and be healed from it. And if you don't need to know, just accept the healing. Just accept the healing. There's another example he gives that I love that I'll read to you because he says it better than I can say it in Your Mind Can Heal You. Here's another visualization. When you think of the power of Spirit within you to heal. Consider the marvelous intelligence at work in the building of your eye. No scientist knows just how it's done, but mind knows the formula for thinning the skin over the forming retina and gradually making it translucent so that we can see through it. It constructs the eye in separate sections, each of which is distinct in structure, yet all of them together working as a harmonious unit when brought together in the organ of vision. It creates the crystalline lens. And if you need healing in your eyes right now, just listen to this and let this infinite intelligence give it this pattern for your eyes. I need this for my eyes. Let's see, could you hold that for me over there? It creates the crystalline lens, making it wonderfully elastic, so it can contract or flatten out to take in near or far objects of vision. It constructs 2 chambers containing fluids. It builds the optic nerve with its myriad nerve endings pointed outward so that they can catch certain vibrations from the outer world, translating them in the brain into visioned objects. Isn't that marvelous? Can you feel it? You just have to feel this. You don't have to know how you want to be healed. You just have to just feel the majesty and the power of spirit. Another remarkable thing about the eye is its provision for adequate protection. All of us have noticed that one instantly blinks in the presence of danger to the eyeball. The most sensitive and most easily pierced portion of the eyeball is the pupil. To protect the pupil, mind has constructed in the eyelid a small disc of cartilage, very tough. When the eyelid blinks, this disc is brought over the pupil and acts as a protector. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Thus, intelligence furnishes proper protection for the functioning of an organ that it has constructed. Proof that once you're made, you're not abandoned by spirit. There is an infinite intelligence at work in your body, and we just have to remember it and feel it and get ourselves open to it. If you're not a physical body person, he gives us a third way. He says, think about planet Earth. Claudia led us in the meditation to think about that visualization of Earth from outer space. Its weight, its size is kept spinning regularly, moving at tremendous speeds by the power and wisdom of this presence, this same intelligence that's healing the cells of your body. And way out and out in space, 93 millions of miles away, is the sun that dwarfs our planet. It also is completely subject to this power. And way out beyond the sun are other suns, compared to which our sun is no bigger than a tiny grain of sand. And way out into infinity and beyond, this silent worker holds the entire universe in order. In order, the majesty and the power. Holds it in order, whirling those massive bodies at incredible speeds through space, and at the same time pours life and vitality into every one of your cells. See, we just have to, doesn't that give you chills? We want to have the chill bumps to feel the power of spirit. It creates a giant sun or a microscopic cell with equal ease and perfection. And to the degree that we get the feeling of this presence, we are infused with its power. So you just sit in the majesty of that, and it's like sitting in a sauna or a jacuzzi. You're just immersed in it, and it's healing every part of you, and you don't have to figure anything out. You just have to feel the wholeness. And the last way that he gives us to dissolve doubts when others are reporting incurable conditions and pain is prevalent in the body. Have you ever had this pain and it's hard to focus your mind on something? He says is to go through a reasoning process that leads you into a deeper feeling of faith. And this is when you want to construct for yourself a faith-building dialogue that you can read every day or memorize and speak to yourself. And it goes something like this. He has this in the book also. I don't care what the doctors say. Mind can grow a broken bone together and doctors cannot. Again, capture the power of spirit. Mind can make hormones that they do not know how to make. Mind operates through an anesthetic to still pain, and it can operate now to remove my pain and bring calm and freedom from distress. My body is filled with pure spiritual substance in every cell. Where spirit dwells, there is always peace, calm, and perfection. Spirit is at this moment at the very spot where the ugly false illness is trying to make itself real. And spirit fills every single cell with its life-giving, life-renewing presence. My entire body, from head to toe, from innermost atom to outermost skin, is only spirit. Whatever is causing this disturbance has no authority or power. I declare only beneficial, harmonious, healing action within my body. God is, and God is filling my body temple with the presence of peace, health, and perfection now. Now, if you read that over every day in a moment of quiet time, I would think it would help you get into that feeling that there is a great indwelling intelligence that heals by recognition of its presence. And when you call on it, you're recognizing it. When you think about it, you're recognizing it. So whether it helps to fire your feelings by thinking about how the eye is made or how infinite intelligence constructed your body, or whether it fires your feelings to think about the magnitude of the order in the universe, or it fires your feelings to sit every day with a prayer that you can declare the work of this infinite intelligence at work in your body, to the degree that you can get yourself to a place where you feel it, is the degree that you can use, that its power can stream through you, in and through you. So I invite you this week to keep these kinds of ideas in your mind. When you're driving along and you're thinking about what he said and she said, stop and think, wow, how wonderfully the universe is made. Let your body stream thoughts of constructive life and healing. Keep these ideas in your mind and heart, and when you do, you never have to ask if your faith is strong enough. Because every day you're seeing in everything and everyone the power and the majesty of spirit and its marvelous healing ability. So let's just stop for a moment as we close and let these observations soak in and through our consciousness until their immensity takes hold. I want to seal this experience with just a short prayer time. So I invite you to turn your mind to any part of health and wholeness in your body that needs to feel the presence. Today we see God everywhere, in everything, in everyone. We see God at the very spot where others say they see disease. Our body is completely intertwined with the divine presence, and it cannot be separated. Every single cell of our body is filled to capacity with the divine presence. God is not an inch away from us. All the healing life of the infinite in its entirety has been in you from the beginning of time. Been in us from the beginning of time, and is at this very moment awaiting our recognition. Remember how the psalmist confirmed the omnipresence of God. Whither shall I go from thy spirit, or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand hold me fast. So we feel this love, we feel this power, and from this moment forward, we let ourselves be blessed by it and let it flow in and through us. Thank you, God. Amen.